Welcome to the Growth Boss podcast, where we seek out the secrets to high-performing campaigns from some of the smartest marketers in the world. I'm your host, Gerrid Smith. Today, I have Bridget Poston with me, and she's going to teach us how to increase your revenue by 43% within 60 days using human-first email marketing. Bridget, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So for people who aren't maybe familiar with you, can you give a little bit of backstory on your career?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So my name is Bridget. I am the founder of Beeline Copy. We are a boutique email marketing agency helping businesses increase their revenue and build long-term customer relationships through what we call human-first email marketing. But let's go back in time just a little bit to kind of share how I got here. So before the whole world of marketing that I dove into, I used to work a full-time job. I was actually in the finance industry and I was working full-time, but I've always had an interest in marketing and psychology. And both of those things kind of go hand in hand because you need to understand how people tick and why they buy in order to have effective marketing. So I had been interested in that for quite some time and it took a while, but eventually I just kind of got tired of the rat race and the job that I was in that I wasn't super passionate about. And I eventually took the leap and I started my side hustle, and that was Beeline Copy. I got my start as a copywriter at first. So as a freelance copywriter, I did all the things under the sun, right? When you're getting started, you'll just do anything and everything for like $10 for everything. Yeah. So I got a lot of experience under my belt. As I kept going, I realized that I really enjoyed email copywriting and email marketing in general. So I decided to niche down to that. For a while, I still work primarily with e-commerce brands, but for a while I was just their email copywriter. So I would just write the copy for their emails. I would do a little bit of strategy as well, but that was about it. Eventually I realized that they needed more help than just copy. They're like, hey, we kind of need someone to do the design. We need someone to build out the strategy. We need to do something, something called A/B testing and segmentation, all these things. We need full email list management. Can you help with that? And at the time I was like, okay, this is something I would love to dive into and be able to help my clients with. So that's when I expanded my services to full email marketing management. And now we've been in business for about 3 years. We typically help 7- and 8-figure e-commerce brands increase their revenue, build long-term relationships with their customers so that they keep coming back, because our main focus with our human-first approach, which maybe we'll dive into what that means in a bit, our main goal is to really build those relationships up front and over the span of that customer's relationship or life cycle with us, so that whenever they're ready to buy, even if it's not right now, they'll think of us. And they'll have a positive image in their mind when they think of the brand, and they'll want to come back when the time's right.
I love it. I love it. That's a great little intro. And I would love to use my company, Joy Organics, as kind of your test client in this particular scenario. So let's assume that I came to you. We've got, 170, 180,000 people on our list. I say, Bridget, I need help. I want a human first. And this, I am genuinely believing this. Like, we need a human first approach to email marketing. It feels like I can't stand my newsletters. Like, I just tell my assistant, just delete all of them. Like, I don't even want to read them, other than a few of them that actually feel kind of personal, which is so funny. I've never kind of put that two before together. But what's kind of the first step when you have an e-com brand come to you and they're like, hey, we need help? What's the first thing you do with them?
So the first step is really what I like to call a pulse check. So nothing super fancy here, but it's really just an audit. So I need to have an understanding of where you're at, where you want to go, what you're selling, what you're offering, and most importantly, who your audience is. So my team and I, we do a deep dive and we essentially perform a whole email audit to understand where you're at, what's working, what's missing, what's not working, so we can come up with a whole game plan for you. So that would be the very first step, is doing that pulse check. And then, do you want me to go into the next steps?
Yeah, let's do it. Yep.
So from there, once we have an idea of where you're at and where you want to go, we do, hop on a call to make sure we're all on the same page. And we're like, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is what we think can be improved. Here's kind of the game plan we have laid out. Now with my team, we're very collaborative. I know a lot of brands are like, hey, just do it for me. But we do like to make sure you're in the loop, of course. And some brands, some founders like to be very hands-on. Depends on the person. So we like to make sure it's very collaborative and we're very open with our communication on what the plan is. So we start with that. And then the next step really is gathering every marketer's favorite, especially these days, zero-party data, right? So the first step to any marketing strategy, any marketing campaign, any piece of copy, right? You have to know who you're talking to, right? You have to know what they want, what they don't want, what they like, what they don't like, their desires and everything. So there are a few ways we kind of handle this. Some brands are already doing a decent job. Maybe they have some surveys, maybe on their opt-in form, they have like a couple options of like, if it's a skincare brand, okay, what are your skincare concerns? What are you worried about? Is it, acne? Is it dry skin? Is it this? Is it that? And that's a good start. That's an example of how you can gather zero-party data, although there are some other ways as well. One way actually that a lot of people kind of forget is on the manage preferences page. So you have like an unsubscribe page where people go to unsubscribe, and if you have it set up, then it should ask them, hey, why are you unsubscribing? Which is, again, another way to gather good information. But the manage preferences page is often an overlooked page. It usually just has first name, last name, email, and maybe something else like to update their information. That's the point.
Sure.
However, what you can do is you can use that as kind of like a mini survey or just a way to gather more information. So it can be like, hey, how often do you want to receive emails from us? Hey, would you rather receive, emails like this or like this? So you can gather more information that way as well. So that would be the next step, is if they don't have that in place, then now I'm strategizing ways that I can gather this information. So can we send out a survey soon? Okay, when? To what segments? What segments do we have available to us? And it all ties into what the goals of the business is. So that would be really the next step. And then from there, it's optimizing the current flows and campaigns that they have. So do you have one flow set up? Do you have nothing set up? Well, that's when we're going to dive in. We're going to start fleshing out the copy, the design, coming up with different tests, and then executing and monitoring the results from that execution so we can see, hey, what's working? And hey, where can we go from here?
I love it. So what do you do with a brand like ours where we serve, I would say, primarily women, but a very wide age range and for a variety of benefits? And I'll give you two examples. We have a lot of moms, early 30s maybe, that take our product for stress. And then we have older women, say 60, 70, that take it for pain or sleep. We don't have them segmented. What would you do with a list of 170,000 people that, hey, you can't just talk to moms, and you probably don't want to talk to grandmas or, the older women as well in the same way?
Love that. So my first initial thought when you were saying that is I would send out a survey. You have quite a big list. So I might start with your most engaged subscribers. Don't know how many people that is, but whoever your VIPs are, most engaged, whoever has opened or clicked most frequently, most often, or buys from your brand the most, whoever those people are, those are the best people to target because they already show interest in your brand. They're customers. They're more loyal. They care. So if you send them an email asking them to give back to you a little bit in the form of survey answers and information, they're more likely to do that than someone who subscribed 5 months ago and didn't even buy at all. So I would say at least start with that. You could offer an incentive, and that could be anything. It could be a discount. It could be a free call. It could be free product. You can get creative. That's another way to increase the responses you get. In that survey, I wouldn't make it too long. I wouldn't make it too short. I would make it very easy to take. So one thing that I've noticed with our surveys is if you have one question per page, Typeform does a good job at this, where it's like one question, on to the next. People love multiple choice. They love just like click, click, click. I want to be done in 2 seconds. Yeah. If you can create a survey more like that, at least most of the questions are like that, you're going to get better results. You're going to have a better completion rate. And within that survey, I would say come up with questions to where you can decipher the different segments and who's who. And say it in a way that, resonates with them. And then ideally that survey tool, I know Typeform does a great job. I love Typeform. It will feed it back into your email service provider, aka ESP. We use Klaviyo quite a bit. So if it's Klaviyo, you'll be able to have that data send back to Klaviyo and go to each person's profile as a custom property, it's called. And from there, you can segment based on those custom properties, and boom, you have more segments created.
Okay. Awesome. Now, before we dive into flows and how you set up different flows for success and maybe all the different flows that I should have as an e-commerce brand, talk to me about what human first copy is. What exactly does that mean?
I'm so glad you asked. So for Beeline copy, Human first email marketing really refers to prioritizing the long-term relationship you build with your customers versus just sending promotion after promotion down their throat every single week. Right. They're tired of that, especially when it comes to Black Friday and like holiday season. Like people are just like, they just want to like throw up because of how many emails they're getting that are just saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So with Human First, how we kind of do that is, again, it goes back to zero party data and understanding your audience. I'm going to say that quite a bit because that's a core part, but it also encompasses a nice balance of value rich content, community building content, and of course, some promotional content because we are, this is an e-commerce brand, of course, brands that we're working with, and they need to make money. Not that the value-rich content emails won't make money, but the purpose of those is really to build that relationship. It's to educate. It's to build trust. It's to build community. It's to build loyalty. And then we have the direct promotional emails it's like, hey, here's this product and here are the benefits. Yeah. So really that's the approach we take is we think long-term. I think roughly there were a couple studies that said about 90% of people who actually join your email list right away are not ready to buy. A lot of people are not ready to buy right at that moment. Maybe in a week, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in a month, a year, but usually they're not ready to buy unless you're offering like a really big discount, but that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. So with that in mind, you have to ask yourself, what's my approach going to be kind of knowing that information? Yeah. Our approach is build the relationship, be a brand that communicates your values. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. Additionally, people buy from brands that they identify with, right? So people love to have their identity affirmed. So if they buy from a brand that speaks to them, like let's say they really love, like freedom is a core value for them. Freedom is a core value for me. I happen to resonate with brands who speak my language. And I'll be sitting there, I'm just like, you get me. You get me. I automatically like them more.
Absolutely.
Maybe I'm not ready to buy, but if they stay top of mind, they keep sending content that I like, that's not too pushy, it's creative, it builds community, maybe they show some behind the scenes stuff, I'll think of them when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I was just looking to get some clarity on what community building content is.
Perfect. Such a great question. So community building content can look like a lot of different things. So one example is I love behind the scenes content. So it doesn't matter what your brand is. Like let's say, you're a skincare brand. Okay. And you have a headquarters. Maybe you have a company somewhere. You have employees working in the building. Maybe you have a factory somewhere, wherever you're manufacturing the skincare products. Well, have someone go in and take a video. Have someone go in and take a video, take pictures. This can be great for cross marketing on social media and email. So you can kind of leverage both at the same time, or if you just want to drive engagement to social, this is a great way to do it. But sharing videos of behind the scenes. So your process, how your products are made, who your team members are, highlighting team members. It can even be relevant to the time of year, holidays. Maybe there's like a holiday party or some sort of thing that you and the team at your company does every year that's unique. Things like that really bring people together and build this level of trust and personalization. I don't know about you, but when I think of this, I see this big brand, maybe I like them, maybe I don't know them, but as soon as I see a video of the employees and they're smiling and they're having a good time and they're showing us what the inside of the company looks like, I'm like, oh, they're human beings too? Oh, okay. Now I like the brand a little bit more because it's not just like this big brand in my face. It's like, oh, there's human beings on the other side. So, behind the scenes content, team highlights, challenges. You can get really creative with challenges. It's very unique to whatever your business is, but you can get very creative there and do like a week-long challenge, a month-long challenge, things like that. Sometimes it can be a good way to build your email list as well if you want to get more subscriber growth. But those are just a couple ways that you can kind of really start to build this community. I also love to do something called a storymonial. So this is really kind of leveraging copy in your email. I usually will make these plain text or light in design. It's similar to a social proof email where you're showcasing a few different reviews to really build that trust and show people, hey, our product works. We're safe. You can trust us. But a storymonial email focuses more on one specific transformation that one of your customers had. So let's say you get an absolutely stellar review from somebody and you're like, wow, this is just like, it almost made me cry. It's so good. There's a transformation here. They're so happy. I love this. You take that and you put it into an email and you tell a story about kind of where this customer came from, where they were at, and then where they went and how things changed after they used your product. And I actually we've used this kind of with our brands, with our clients that we've worked with. And it's kind of a nice way to also interweave your values and your mission as a brand. So you could kind of say something like, oh, here's, Josie's journey. And then you have her review right there. You use, her words. And at the end you say, hey, this is why we do what we do. Because this is our mission. You reiterate your values and you're like, hey, this is what we're here for. Josie had a great transformation and we love to see it. And that builds a lot of trust with your readers.
Love that. That's super cool. Walk us through kind of the high leverage activities within email marketing. You brought up flows. I'm sure developing flows is one of them, but maybe you could walk through some of the highest leverage opportunities that a business owner has with their email list.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we've talked a little bit about testing, but testing your opt-in forms is a really smart thing to do. Testing your offers up front. One thing that people do that's kind of a mistake is they know they should be split testing things, but they'll split test the wrong things, right? So they'll tweak a design for a win-back flow that people don't get for 60 or 90 days. When you'll get more data and better results if you tweak your opt-in form because people are just landing on your site. They're excited, they're awake, they're like, okay, I'm interested at least a little bit. And then also your welcome flow is a good place to test things as well. So I always like to bring up A/B testing and the importance of testing things on the front end of the customer journey because you'll get more accurate data. And then also testing multiple times. So wherever you're at with your flows, if you have a lot, if you don't, I would say really be considering that and asking yourself, what can I test? That would be number one. And then number two really is building out your flows if you haven't done that. Maybe a lot of people on here listening have very robust flows. Maybe they don't. But in addition to the primary flows like welcome flow, abandoned cart, /checkout, and post-purchase, you can kind of get more creative, like with a anniversary flow. So instead of having to, I guess you wouldn't manually send out a campaign to someone for their anniversary. So you'll want to set up a flow so that triggers highly personalized. People love the relevancy. Birthday flows, back in stock flows. People also love that. I feel like that's an often missed one is a back in stock flow.
Yep.
And that's definitely something that should be set up. And then just making sure when you're building out your flows, sometimes people make them very long and have a bunch of emails, which is fine. But the way I approach it is you can add more emails as long as they're performing well. So if you're still seeing, high open rates, click-through rates, conversion rates, most important pieces there, then go ahead and add another one strategically and see how it performs. If it starts to go down, you see a pretty big drop. Okay, maybe it's, time to kind of hold back on all of the emails because you don't want people to be too inundated with them.
Yeah, I was actually going to lead into my next question, which is what is the right number of emails to send as far as cadence is concerned for the welcome flow or just, over the course of a month? What have you found is an average of being okay, here's kind of a sweet spot if you do 2 a week, 3 a week, whatever it may be?
Great question. So specifically with our brands, which again are e-commerce brands, we typically have a sweet number of about 8. Depending on the brand, maybe we'll start with 6 or less. We could go all the way up to 12. But if we are doing more than 8, and even if we are doing 8, we do try to segment as much as possible. Again, bringing in and driving home the point of relevancy. Consumers love it when marketing is personalized to them. The more personalized you can get, the more likely you are to get them to like you, to trust you, and to buy from you. So the best performing campaigns are the ones that are a bit more segmented. So instead of blasting it off to 100,000 people, one campaign to 100,000 people, which is a bit much, I would say, hey, who's within that segment? Maybe we want to send one specific message, but can we tweak it a little bit to be more personalized to 3 different segments? And we send 3 different emails. So I would say there is no answer. Everyone's favorite answer is it depends. But I would say 8 is a pretty good sweet spot. And then just playing around with segmentation so that people aren't being inundated with emails. Because you have to keep in mind, they are getting flow emails as well, depending on what behaviors they're taking. So if you're not careful, you're over here, you don't really know what's going on their end.
Yeah.
They're like getting a million emails, and then you're blasting them with more campaigns, and then they get burnt out and they unsubscribe and they mark you as spam, and you're like, what's going on? So the more segmented you can get, the better. And then considering smart sending, I'm not sure what it's called with other email service providers, but Klaviyo does have something called smart sending, where if someone received an email in the last X number of hours, default is 16 hours, I think, they won't get that email. So you can strategically use that to ensure that people aren't getting too many emails, and that helps too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what about promos for a month? I feel like so many of the brands that are in my space, they're running promos, it seems like every other day. I'm like, guys, I can't imagine this is helping you, but I don't know. Our kind of general philosophy is like 1 to 2 per month. But again, what's the sweet spot for most of the brands that you work with?
So once again, it depends. And here's how I kind of break that down. When it comes to brands sending promotion after promotion, it's like every email is like 70% off or something wild. Sure, you will get sales. Like if you offer a sale or promotion, it's the fastest way to make more money. But here's the trap that happens that you fall into. If you keep sending those to try to get more money, more money, more money, you're going to burn out your list at some point, and you're training your subscribers to expect a discount and only buy from you when you offer a discount. And that's not what you want. You want people to love you and love your brand and be loyal to you and come back because they need you, not because they just want to save $10. So that's the pitfall there. Now, to kind of, answer your question on how many promotions to do and when, I look at the brand and I ask myself, once I understand who the brand is, their values, how they speak, how they talk, who their audience is, I'm like, what does it make sense? What makes sense here for this brand? I have a brand that I'm working with right now. It's a beverage brand, kind of high quality, premium, elevated brand. Mm-hmm. They're not a discount brand. For Black Friday and Christmas, we did do a discount, or I'm sorry, not a discount, but we did do a promotion of sorts. And that made sense. But we're not going to run one every month. It's going to be maybe quarterly. Or we do kind of a different type of approach to get people to maybe buy from us or run some sort of promotion. So I would say it depends on the brand. Like, does it make sense to offer these discounts? I wouldn't do it too often. I wouldn't do it in every other email. I wouldn't do it in every email. I would say probably stick to once a month or less. If your goal is to build that relationship with your customers or potential customers and not be seen as a discount brand, then I would use them very sparingly.
Excellent. My last question is, what are some of the most common mistakes that you find e-commerce brands making with their emails, where you dive in, you do your audit, and you're like, oh my goodness, not another e-com brand doing this? What are maybe the top 2 or 3 mistakes that you're seeing?
Oh, yes. Oh, such a great one. I had like 10 run through my head. I was like, so which ones do I choose? Because there's so many. I would say, a lot of these e-com brands, they either don't have any flows set up, or maybe like one flow with one email. And I'm like, okay, lots of opportunity here. Let's dive in and help them. Or they have like a modge podge of flows, and they're messy and they're overlapping, and the copy isn't very strong, or the design isn't very strong, and it's just messy. So that's one thing that I see. Another thing that I see is really lack of testing, lack of attention to analyzing the data and seeing what works. They kind of just maybe copy other people or just guess and put something out there, but then they never come back to it and see how it can be improved and what they can learn. So that would probably be the mistake I see, is not taking the time to test and then to analyze that data to see, okay, well, what can we improve so we can make more money here and also get more customers coming back?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned that some of your clients like to be really involved. Some of them like to be completely hands-off. What have you found as like the top attributes for the most successful clients that you've served?
Top attributes. Ooh, good question. As in like how the clients, like how we work together?
Yeah, how you work together, are the best clients the ones that are like, hey, you guys just handle everything, I leave it to you? Or do you find that it's better when you work with them? Do they provide you certain data points that you're like, oh, wow, this is really helpful, and that can make the campaign more successful?
Love it. So I love a collaborative approach on both sides. I've never been one to like a micromanager. I don't like to micromanage. So I don't like to work with clients. And usually I can tell how they are right off the bat if I'm maybe on a call and we're exploring things to see if we're a good fit.
Yeah.
I can tell if they're probably going to be a micromanager. I'm like, oh, this might be a little bit of a stressful situation or a stressful relationship. One thing that can be tough sometimes with any brands or any founders, people running a company, is them maybe not letting us take the reins and use our expertise and experience to apply what we know and get them the results they're looking for. So there's almost too much involvement on their side and it can be a bit stressful. Not my favorite. What I like is more of a collaborative approach. So, I mean, if they're hands off, that's totally fine. Like my team can kind of take the lead, but I will bring them in and say, hey, let's get on a call. I need to show you what's going on. Here's where we're at. What do you think? And of course, we do need approval on campaigns and flows and what we set up. So we do have to have that communication so that they're signing off on things and we're in agreement. I think a beautiful balance is where they're bringing some value to the table. They're saying, hey, this just happened, or we just had this shoot. Can we use these photos? Or, hey, we just noticed this. By the way, is this helpful? And we're sharing information, sharing data, sharing ideas. And I think that's a beautiful collaborative approach, and so much more can come from that.
Yeah, love it. Is there anything else that you feel like business owners need to know and understand to create successful email marketing campaigns?
Ooh, I would say really just to hammer home the point of personalization and relevancy. Really take the time, and this is skipped. We talk about it. I think everybody knows, but not a lot of people or brands take the time to do it, but really focusing on getting that zero-party data. So quizzes, surveys, leveraging unsubscribe forms, your opt-in form, manage preferences form, and everything, and looking at the data. Right? Saying, who are my customers? Who's my audience? What do I know about them? Because if you can take that data and actually apply it and say, hey, how can we tweak this flow? Or let's try a different look with our campaigns, or let's maybe try sending fewer. That's literally going to give you a higher ROI and you're going to make more money. So just always keep that in mind, is asking yourself, how can I personalize my emails even more? How can I understand my customers more?
Yeah. I love that. And maybe even as a starting point, when people check out on your website, just throw the survey, on the thank you page. Start collecting that right up front.
Exactly. Yes. Great point. Great addition.
Yeah. I love it. Bridget, thank you so much. This has been so helpful. And I think a lot of people are going to find value in this. Really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.